Coming at you with hard-hitting analysis of every fight on every UFC card. This is your source for everything you need to know for your daily fantasy MMA lineups. This is Daily Fantasy Knockout. Here's your host, Drew D.
What's up, folks? We're back at it again. My name is Drew Dean, and I'm here as always with my co-host Josh Stonewall Stillman for another episode of Daily Fantasy Knockout. Today we're going to go over UFC Fight Night 92. I'm already jumping the gun. Josh, how are we doing, man?
Doing good, man. Missed last week because I was on a road trip type thing. Backed into a pole with my new car, so...
You did? I didn't hear that.
Yep.
What kind of car did you get?
A Mazda 6.
Oh, that's right. You told me that. Damn, dude.
Yep. So, wanted to hang myself for a couple days, but gotten over it, I guess. Kind of getting it.
I got into a car accident a couple weeks ago myself.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, an actual heroin addict pulled right out in front of me. I'm not kidding.
Word.
He ran away from the tow truck driver, 3 warrants out for her arrest. It was a whole cluster.
Nice.
Yeah, but my car got fixed. I just got it yesterday. So I didn't pay a dime. It was nice.
Perfect.
Anyway, as always, guys, we're going to go through the UFC card, talk about who we think is going to win. And as it relates to DraftKings, we'll pull in their prices and incorporate Las Vegas odds. As always, we do not look at the Las Vegas odds until we are live right now. But before we dive into it, we're going to go over, recap a little bit of our scores here. Josh and I play a game at the end of the podcast where we pick a couple, I don't know, not superlatives. What do you call them?
Bonus picks?
Yeah, sure. So we have a scoring system. We pick the lock of the night, fight of the night, and the Stonewall stunner of the evening. For those listeners, you guys know what that is, but we'll get into that at the end of the podcast. Sorry about that. Looking at it now, I'm running away with things here, Josh. It's Diener is at 10 and Josh is at 5. What's going on, Mr. Guru?
My locks are losing, basically is what's happening, and you're hitting on your stunners. So, yeah, that's what's going on. It's terrible.
Yeah, well, you win some, you lose some. It could all come tumbling back to earth here shortly. So, yeah, let's dive right in. I'm going to take the first fight of the evening. It is a heavyweight bout between Chase Sherman and Justin Ledet. Both of these guys are UFC newcomers. Where there's not too much footage on them. I saw more footage on Sherman on YouTube, but like I said, he's making his UFC debut. He has 9 victories. All of them are by TKO or knockout in the first round. I saw a lot of good head movement. He throws a lot of feints. He throws this wicked hard leg kick. And based on what I saw, he's very confident on the feet. The one loss that I did see, it was that he was breaking up from an exchange and he got caught with a spinning back fist. It was kind of fluky in my opinion. But since we don't have much footage on him, like I said, he's active on the feet. He likes to stand and bang. He's got good head movement. Not much really else I could take from the video that I saw. Ledet, he's also making his debut. All 6 of his victories have come by TKO or submission. He's super active on his feet as always. He's confident in his striking game. He has high output. He's not the most defensive fighter. I did notice there were a lot of holes in his striking game. What I noticed about him more than Sherman was he has a more versatile game. He's very, very strong in the clinch. Up against the fence, he works over really, really solid knees against his opponents. And judging by his track record, he has a good submission game. He submitted a bunch of fighters. Like I said, of his 6 victories, I think he has 4 submission victories. But as always, it's a heavyweight fight. They're both debuting, and there's limited footage on these guys. So it's kind of a coin flip, in my opinion. They both like to stand and bang. I'm probably going to have GPP-only exposure to both of these guys. But if you're forcing me to pick, I'm probably going to take Ledet just because he's proven that wherever the fight goes, he could finish it, whether it's up against the fence, on the ground, standing. But I'm not super confident in that pick. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Normally, we're pretty confident about our picks, but this is one of those where it's a coin flip. I'm looking at the weigh-ins, and Ledet weighed in at, what, 235?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Sherman weighed in at, where the hell is he? 245. So you got to think they're going to be a little bit heavier than that walking into the cage. Sherman might have a little speed advantage in the fight. Or I'm sorry, Ledet might have a little speed advantage in the fight. He might lose some power, but I am so sorry. What the hell is that? There it is. But yeah, I'm going to go with Ledet in this fight. I'm going to have exposure to both. Looking at DraftKings, or I'm sorry, Las Vegas. Man, I'm struggling here today. Start out of the gate. DraftKings, both of these guys are priced at 9,700, so it's some cheap exposure there. You got to think they finish this fight. Let's take a look at Las Vegas odds. Ledet is actually the favorite at -135, and Sherman is +105. Those are so close. I consider that a coin flip. The over/under is at 1.5, and it's -115 to go over and -115 to go under. So GPP only play for me. I'm going to have exposure to both. It's just whoever hits, in my opinion. I don't have a strong enough opinion to gain more value on this one.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like Vegas agrees with you. Ledet is the slight favorite there, and it's definitely a fight that's supposed to end in a finish. So definitely want exposure to both. Maybe lean slightly toward Ledet. I'm down with it.
All right, let's move on to the next fight. The second fight in the early prelims. Josh's boy, Cub Swanson versus Tatsuya Kawajiri.
Yeah, I love me some Swanson. Glad to see him get back on the winning track in his last fight against Hackman Diaz. I think this is his fight to win, and for a couple of reasons. He's always had his last two losses were to Frankie Edgar and Max Holloway, who are two, maybe like number 2 and number 3 best fighters in the division. So certainly no shame losing to those two guys. And they both ended up finishing him, but like very late in both of their fights. So before that, he was on like a 6-fight winning streak with wins over guys like Jeremy Stevens, Dustin Poirier, and he had finished Dennis Seaver and Ross Pearson, and he had finished most of those guys. I think Poirier was the only guy to go the distance with him during that 6-fight winning streak. So he's very dynamic. He's got good power in his hands. He's really good at he's sort of like Carlos Condit in that he throws like a lot of volume, and he'll throw kind of like weird stuff during exchanges that guys don't see coming. In his fight with Hackman Diaz, for example, he threw a leg kick and then immediately didn't have a lot of power behind it, but then he immediately threw a left hook that knocked Diaz down. And then in the third round, he was like in the middle of an exchange with Diaz and just threw up a head kick that ended up landing flush. So he's capable of landing like kind of weird things from weird angles during exchanges. He's got, good hands, good kicks as well. His takedown defense has been solid, but he had trouble against Frankie Edgar, who's like one of the best wrestlers in the division. So again, no shame in that. And he's a good grappling game too. He's got a very active guard, and he's good at floating on top and landing. He's pretty much aggressive in every phase. So he's an exciting fighter, and one that I'm definitely looking forward to seeing here. He's facing Kawajiri, who's has had exciting fights in the past, but in his UFC tenure, he's mostly been a dude who will throw like occasional spinning attacks, spinning back fists, jumping front kicks. But then other than that, he's trying to like take the fight to the ground and smother people from top position. And against like lesser competition, he might be able to work to a submission. But against higher level guys, he's just trying to like lay and pray his way to a decision, maybe land some mild ground and pound. So it pretty much comes down to whether or not this fight comes down to whether or not Kawajiri can get the takedown consistently and hold Swanson down when he does. If he can do that, then he can probably escape with a decision. But if he can't, he's probably going to get carved up on the feet. And I think that's kind of what happens here. I think that Swanson has really, really good lateral movement, so he's really good at not getting cornered. And I think that he'll probably avoid the clinch and grappling for the most part with Kawajiri, because that's Kawajiri's best chance to like drag him to the mat. So I think he uses lateral movement and his superior striking arsenal to take a pretty clear decision or possibly get a stoppage. A stoppage for Swanson wouldn't surprise me at all. He, like I said, he stopped plenty of guys before, So it wouldn't shock me there either if he did it to Kawajiri. So what do we got for DraftKings in Vegas?
Kawajiri comes in at plus 250 as the underdog, and Cub Swanson is minus 350. Over-under is at 2.5 rounds. It's favored to go over that at minus 170. DraftKings, Kawajiri is 9,100, and Cub Swanson is 10,300.
Okay. Yeah, I think Swanson might be one of the biggest favorites on the card, and he's very moderately priced at only, what did you say, 10.3? Yeah. So I like Swanson a lot, obviously, in this case. I think he makes a pretty solid cash play as one of, if not the biggest favorite on the card. He's definitely not priced like it. There are guys here that are priced over 11,000, and Swanson is barely over 10,000 as one of the biggest favorites. So he makes a good cash play. Obviously, the downside for Swanson is that he could, worst case scenario, be like fighting off takedowns and fighting off his back for long stretches. But again, I don't think that's super likely here. So I think he makes a pretty good cash play because as long as he's upright, he's going to be landing strikes. He's usually lands 70 to 80 strikes per fight, and he also has that upside. So I think Swanson's a good play here. Kawajiri, even though he's not horribly priced for being like the biggest well, actually, let me back that up. As one of the bigger underdogs on the card, he's still over $9,000. So I probably won't have very much exposure to Kawajiri. He doesn't have much upside, and doesn't really offer you much in cash either. I think there are better options priced lower than him. So I'm probably going to be staying away from Kawajiri for the most part.
Yeah, I think that's a smart play. I'm sorry, did you say you were going to play him in cash games or GPPs?
I'll probably play Swanson in both.
Okay. 10-3, yeah, I mean, that's not too ridiculous of a price tag.
Yeah, not at all. Especially when he's the biggest favorite. I think a first-round stoppage is well within his abilities. So, yeah, he's got upside, and he's a big favorite for a very cheap price tag. So definitely playable for sure.
All right, I love it. We're going to go to the first fight in the FS1 prelims. Featherweight fight, Teruto Ishihara versus Horacio Gutierrez. Looking at Ishihara first, I just want to make note. Ishihara has no interest in MMA. He doesn't like MMA. He only does this for the girls, as he said. There's an article I just read about that, and Josh brought it to my attention while we were off the air. After his last fight, he just said he did it for the women, I guess, at the post-fight interview.
We're not like, whatever. It's fine.
That's hilarious. Anyway, looking at Ishihara, he has 6 first-round finishes. He also has 7 total wins by knockout. He's a southpaw fighter. He's really, really aggressive. He has a high pace. He takes a ton of risks on the feet. Really, really fast hands, and he forces his opponents to react to those punches. Kind of gets them off their game. He's got really, really good movement on the feet, head movement. He's in and out, throws fakes. He throws really, really hard inside leg kicks that chop down his opponents. You can just hear the smack, kind of like Jose Aldo. When he throws those wicked kicks, and you can just feel them. Oh, it's terrible. And talking about his ground game, I didn't really see much footage on his ground game. Basically, what I get out of this guy is he's active on the feet, he's aggressive, he has a high pace, and his strategy is to overpower his opponents with volume and power punches from all over the place. Looking at Gutierrez in the striking department, he also throws heavy leg kicks. He has vicious power in his hands, mainly his left hook and his left counter, which could actually bode in his favor because since Teruto's all about coming forward and attacking, he needs to make sure his defense is polished up because if he gets caught with that left counter, he's going to bed. Anyway, back to Gutierrez. He's got really good footwork. He's hard to hit. He's willing to stand and trade. Another issue I did see is he tends to stand up straight in the pocket. That's not very good because when somebody's coming at you like that, you're just kind of a sitting target. So looking at his wrestling, he fought Enrique Barzola in his last fight, and he was taken down 5 times in that fight. So I don't see this fight going to the ground. I see these two guys standing on the feet and banging it out. In terms of the pick, I'm going to go with Ishihara in this one. I think he's going to be overwhelming for Gutierrez. Ishihara averages 5.6 significant strikes per minute, and neither of these guys average any takedowns. So I think Ishihara, throws everything at the kitchen sink at him. And I'm not saying Gutierrez gets finished. I think Ishihara takes us to a decision, but I think this is a good fight. I think Ishihara comes away with it due to volume, and he wins it on the scorecards.
Okay. The price tags are kind of all over the place on this whole card, but especially this fight. So Ishihara is at 11.5K, which is bananas as far as I'm concerned. And Gutierrez is at 7,900. So what do you think about that? Where do you want to play these guys? Do you want to play them at all?
If I'm going to play anybody, it's going to be Gutierrez. Just because, he's got a puncher's chance. I don't think it's that.
Yeah, that's
11.5. Really?
Yeah. The odds have Ishihara as a -240 favorite, and Gutierrez as a +200 underdog. The over/under is 1.5 rounds, and it's favored to go over at -155. So
my Vegas website that I use, Ishihara is -220 and Gutierrez is +175.
Okay,
that's interesting. I'm gonna have to think about this.
I think with Ishihara being 11.5K, you just you can't really roster him.
I think you fade him
too much. He's capable of the finish. I think both of these guys are capable of the finish, especially because Ishihara is so crazy.
He's insane. He's wild.
Yeah, he's so wild. So that could lead him to getting a finish. Could also lead him, like you said, running into something and getting knocked the hell out.
And that's all she wrote.
Yeah. So I think this is a GBP play, but I think you probably want to be heavier on Gutierrez because he costs basically nothing.
Yeah, and you can pay up down the road. So, all right, let's move on to our next fight. I just missed it. David Taymor versus Jason Novelli.
Yeah, so this is going to be a Muay Thai strikers clinic, delight, whatever. But that's both these guys' specialties. Taymor is coming off of season 23, I think, of The Ultimate Fighter. That was the Conor McGregor, Uriah Faber one, the Europe versus US one. I think he got eliminated. I forget who eliminated him, but in any case, he won his UFC debut against Martin Svensson, who was also coming off the show, was also a teammate on Team Europe. And Taymor knocked him out in the second round, I think. Novelli is making his UFC debut. In his last fight, he had a draw with Yostenis Cedeno, who was a 4-time UFC veteran, but he should have won that fight pretty clearly. The fact that it was a draw was really, really weird. Although he did, the reason it was probably a draw is because he got rocked a couple of times, but aside from those two instances, he pretty much controlled the fight. I'm going with Taymor in this one though. He's only, I think, 4-1 or 5-1, while Novelli is 11-1-1. So Novelli's got a lot more experience, but Taymor's already got his UFC debut under his belt, which is something at least. But the main reason I'm picking him is that he's more active. It should be really interesting though, because I think in the fights that I saw with Novelli, he isn't super aggressive, but it looks like he's trying to counter strike. And with how much output Taymor brings to the table, it could be interesting. We might see more volume from Novelli as he looks to counter. Novelli will have a 3-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage.
2-inch reach advantage.
Right. Which isn't crazy, but it's something at least. But I like Taymor because of his output and the fact that Novelli tends to get rocked pretty cleanly. He gets, I don't know, he doesn't move his head very well, drops his hands sometimes, and admires his handiwork after throwing strikes. So I like Taymor in this fight to take a decision, but a knockout for the Swede Taymor would not surprise me. And Novelli's got pretty good grappling as well. Most of his wins have actually come by submission. I think 6 wins out of his 11 have been by submission, despite him being a Muay Thai specialist. So if he were to drag the fight to the mat, and get a submission, I wouldn't be totally shocked, but I like Timur here to win on points.
Okay, let's look at Las Vegas. Timur is -165 favorite, and Novelli is +135. And looking at DraftKings, Timur is 9,200, and Novelli is 10,200. What?
Yeah, so they've switched the prices around, which makes Timur even more targetable, obviously. I think he's good for cash or for GPPs, I should say, at that price. You agree?
Yeah, totally.
I mean, you get that kind of value, you just can't hard pass that up.
Yeah, you got to smash it.
Yeah, a lot of these prices are kind of all over the place. Novelli, I wouldn't play in cash because he's 10-2 and he's an underdog, which doesn't make any sense. Like I said, I wouldn't be totally shocked if he got a submission, but I'm going to have very limited exposure to him in tournaments for sure.
All right, we safe to move on?
Yeah.
Heavyweight fight, Victor Pesta versus Marcin Tybura. I'm going to dive into this one a little bit. This is actually another lame heavyweight fight, in my opinion.
What makes you say it's lame?
I don't know.
They throw bombs and try to knock each other's heads off.
Yeah, but they're beat. Anyway, Pesta, he trains with Alexander Gustafsson. He's a lighter heavyweight. I'm looking over here. Yeah, he's like 240. I don't know what he weighed in today. Let's take a look. Probably 245, I have to guess. 239.5, so he's fighting at 240. Lighter heavyweight. He's really light on his feet. He's got one of the things that works in his favor is he's got good cardio, a hell of a chin. He fought Konstantin Arokin, and he was rocked multiple times, and he just didn't go out. He kept coming and coming and coming. And he actually won that fight late in the round. He's got good takedown ability. He fought Derek Lewis and took him down pretty much at will, and neutralized Lewis's attack until early in the third. Lewis just caught him and put him away. He's very active in top control, and he's been on record saying that his favorite grappling technique is the mounted crucifix, so keep an eye out for that. He's got a strong grappling game up against the fence. His clinch game is strong as always. He really commits to the takedowns when he's in the clinch, and his grinding style, he neutralizes most heavyweights because, like you just said, heavyweights just like to stand and bang and throw bombs. But Pesta likes to, get underneath their range and grind them down and kind of neutralize that attack. Looking at Tybura, his striking, he likes to keep the distance. He doesn't like when fighters get in close and get dirty. He's pretty technically sound on his feet. He's got a quick set of hands on him for a bigger guy. The clinch and grappling department, Timothy Johnson was his last fight. He has a wicked mustache for the record. He worked him up against the cage and really wore him down. If you're a strong grappler and a strong wrestler, you're going to have success against Johnson, and that's kind of why I am going with Pesta in this fight.
You mean Tybura on that one? If you've got strong wrestling and strong grappling, you're going to do well against Tybura. You said Johnson.
Correct. I'm sorry. I mistyped in my research right here. But yes, if you have a strong clinch game and strong wrestling, you're going to do well against Tybura. That being said, I'm going to go with Pesta. Two average heavyweights in this fight. I see Pesta neutralizing Tybura's attack, work him up against the cage, grind on him on the mat, kind of lay and pray, neutralize his attack, and work his way to a decision win. Solely because this is a heavyweight fight, I think the herd is going to be on this fight. So that being said, without even looking at Vegas odds or DraftKings pricing, I'm probably going to fade this fight. I don't see it being finished. Maybe I'll have a lineup or two in GPPs, but I really think I'm going to fade this fight. I think it's a boring affair.
Okay. Gotcha. So I think that's a preview of your bathroom break fight of the night, I'm guessing.
It might be.
All right. So looking at DraftKings and Vegas, let me see what the current odds are. So Tybura is a -125 favorite and Pesta +115 underdog. And Tybura is actually 9,500, slightly lower priced, and Pesta is 9,900. So again, you get a slight bit of value there on Tybura. The over-under is 1.5 rounds, and the over is at -140. So your typical heavyweight over-under line there. So you think you like Tybura, but not enough to roster him too much at only 9,500. Does that change your thinking at all?
I like Pesta.
Oh, you like Pesta. Excuse me. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I like Pesta here. I would play him in a cash game. What's the price on him?
99.
Wow, Tybura's favored. Dude, these prices are ridiculous.
Yeah, they're kind of all over the place. But
Tybura's favored, but he's cheaper. People are going to smash him, I'm telling you.
They're going to be all over him? And you're gonna...
Yeah, because the average MMA player is going to look at the DraftKings or look at the odds and play the heavyweight favorites. I like Pesta in that fight. Cash game, I wouldn't GPP him, but I wouldn't hate it in a cash game play. Cheap, I think he gets the win.
Okay.
That's about it. I'm not going to touch him in GPP. Maybe Tybura here and there.
Okay.
GPP, but that's it. So.
Gotcha. So this is a heavyweight fight to kind of avoid, which is interesting.
Normally you're the one calling out the heavyweight fights to be boring, but this is my pick, and I think it's going to be boring.
No, it's fine. Yeah. I'm usually wrong when I do that. So.
Nah, not always. All right, let's move on to the next fight. Court the Crusher McGee versus Dominique, nonstop action-packed. Dom T. Steele.
Is that his actual nickname? I don't remember reading that, but
yep.
Word. Okay, yeah. So McGee is coming off a knockout loss to your boy Santiago Ponzinibbio. So in his, I think he'd won his last 2 fights, but the deal with McGee, we've kind of known his MO since he came off The Ultimate Fighter. He pushes the pace. He's a cardio machine. He can do a little bit of everything. I think he kind of like came up as a wrestler, but he's developed pretty solid kickboxing, but doesn't have a ton of power behind it. Even as a middleweight, and he used to be a middleweight, even dropping down to a welterweight, he doesn't have a ton of power. He's more of just like an attritive type fighter. He's trying to just like push a pace that you just can't keep up with, keeps hands in your face the whole time, works in takedowns, works in ground and pound, and just keeps doing stuff again and again and again and again until you just wilt, until his opponent wilts, I should say. So that's sort of the deal on McGee. He's also very durable, which is good. Despite his knockout in his last loss to Ponzinibbio. Ponzinibbio is very, very heavy-handed. And we've seen McGee get smashed in the face a bunch of times and be okay. So he's fighting Dominique Steele, who's also very, very powerful. But I slightly favor McGee in this fight because I don't think Steele has the stand-up ability that Ponzinibbio had to like. It wasn't just one shot necessarily that Ponzinibbio used to put McGee down. He hurt him once, and that kind of took McGee out of his game. He just couldn't apply the pressure like he was before he got hit. He was sort of like, I don't know, a little bit more tentative to engage after getting rocked, and he eventually, on a failed takedown attempt, Ponzinibbio planted like a perfect counter right hand on him that put him down. And between rocking him and between ending the fight, Ponzinibbio had put solid hands on McGee that entire time. And that's not really Steele's game. Steele, while he's super strong, got big power in his hands, what he likes to do is sort of similar to McGee in that he wants to get in the clinch and beat you up and slam you to the mat and smash you from top position. That's where he's most comfortable. But I think he's going to have a hard time implementing that plan against McGee. I think McGee's got the crisper striking. He's definitely got the better cardio, and he's probably a better grappler as well. So while Steele might get a takedown here or there, I think that he's not going to be able to hold down McGee, and I think McGee's going to just keep putting hands in his face. He might eat a shot or two, and that's sort of the risk here is that out of the two of them, Steele is definitely the guy who could end the fight in the first round. But despite that, pretty much after those first 5 minutes, I think McGee will gradually take over. That's sort of what I predicted in the Ponzinibbio fight, and it went the way of Ponzinibbio. He got the first round knockout. But if it had gone longer, I'm betting McGee would have gradually taken over because like Steele, Ponzinibbio doesn't really have great cardio. So I'm going to double down here on McGee and pick him to take the lesser version of the big powerful puncher in this case, and Dominique Steele. So I like McGee to take a decision. What do we got for odds in DraftKings?
All right, taking a look at Las Vegas. Court McGee is the favorite at minus 210, and Steele is plus 165. The over-under set at 2.5, and minus 200 to go over. DraftKings, Court McGee comes in, holy criminy, at 11,400, and Dominique Steele is $8,000.
Yeah. So with that, I mean, you can't really play McGee here, I don't think. I wouldn't be like, it's not completely out of the realm of possibility that he could somehow like end up in top position and get a submission, but I don't think he's gotten a finish since his first 2 UFC fights. McGee has. So it's just not super likely that he ends it early and pays that off. So you pretty much have to fade McGee here at that price. It's just kind of insane. Despite him being a pretty solid favorite, him paying that off is just not likely at all. Steele, meanwhile, though, at only 8,000, I think he makes a great GBP play. He's got first-round finish upside. And even if he doesn't get the win, he could drag it into the later rounds. If he wins that first round, maybe he lands a big shot at some point in the second or third. He could steal around and come away with the decision. So, yeah, I don't think he's the worst pick by any means. You could definitely play Steele and GBPs. I think there's better options in cash, but, I mean, for that price tag, you could roll the dice with them too. I wouldn't think you were crazy.
It's MMA, man. You can play Steele and GPPs. I agree. Court McGee is not going to pay off that 11-4. He just doesn't scream fight finisher to me. When's the last time he finished a fight? He submitted Jensen October 23rd. That was years ago. So, yeah. Fade McGee. Anyway, let's move on to the next fight. Marnia Moros versus Danielle Taylor. This will be a quick one, guys. I'm going Moros with this one. Taylor is filling in on late notice. Moros is a master of sport in boxing and kickboxing. Everything about her game is aggressive. Her striking, her grappling, her wrestling. She throws the whole gamut at her opponents, leg kicks and high kicks especially. I don't know too much about Taylor, but the only thing I think that beats Moros is if she's a counterpuncher. She fought Latorno, and she was just pushing forward, and as you always see, she just got picked apart with counterpunches. Her ground game, she's got 5 submission victories on the ground, although the level of competition wasn't the greatest, so you can't put too much stock into that, but she is talented on the ground. She's very dangerous from her guard. In her UFC debut against Joanne Calderwood, she submitted her via armbar at 130 of the first round. In top control, she's very effective as well. She's super accurate, and she uses her strikes to open up submissions. I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. Anyway, I'm going to go with Moros in this one. I think she's going to be more comfortable. She's more experienced. And I'm a firm believer, as I've always said, debuting in the UFC, especially on short notice, it's not an easy task. I think Moros pressures her from the start, beats her up, and I think she gets the finish via submission in the first or second round.
Okay. Yeah, just looking at Taylor real quick, like the limited stuff that we have on her, she's King of the Cage veteran, spent her whole career there, 7-1 with 4 finishes, 3 by TKO and 1 by submission. She's coming off of a, I guess, title-winning performance against Jamie Colleen, who she finished in the 5th round by punches. And her one loss was also to Jamie Colleen in the 4th round by punch. She got knocked out. So seems like she's a striker for the most part. Based on that, she trains out of Sexton Muay Thai. 26 years old. But yeah, there's not a whole lot out there on like film-wise on her, so it's a little bit hard to pick here. But she's taking on Moros, who's definitely a dynamic fighter and one who's already beaten UFC level fighters. So definitely easy to see why you would pick Moroz there.
Looking at Vegas, Moroz is the favorite at -280, and Taylor is +210. The over-under is 2.5 rounds. It's favored to go over at -125, and it's -105 to go under. I like Moroz to end this fight in the first or second round via submission. DraftKings, Moroz is 10-9, and Taylor's 8-5. That's a steep price tag. But I'm pretty confident in Moroz. I think she gets it done.
So do you think, is she more of a GVU play, cash play?
Yeah. Could you play her in both?
I think I would probably lean more toward GVP.
Yeah.
I think there are like cheaper options that the opponent. Taylor's sort of a wild card. We don't really know what we're gonna see from her. So playing Moroz in cash for that much money might be a little bit of a risk. And I think there are other people who are lower priced that we kind of already mentioned, guys who are like 10-3, 10-4, who are like pretty big favorites. So I'd probably steer toward those in cash more than Moroz.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. All right, let's move on to our next fight. Josh is going to take this one. Trevor Hot Sauce Smith versus Joe Gigliotti.
All right, so Gelati, or however you say his name, I think that's how they were pronouncing it on the fights I was watching of his, is a 22-year-old prospect fighting out of Power MMA with guys like Aaron Simpson and Ryan Bader in his corner. So he's got upside potential. I think, I forget what his record is, but he might be undefeated. He's 7-0 or something like that. In any case, I wasn't super impressed with him when I watched him. I don't know that he has a wrestling background. He's just like super big and strong. That's like his best asset. If he gets on top of you, his ground and pound is forceful. If he can land something on the feet, he did that in his last fight against John Poppy. I think he kind of, I don't know that he fainted a takedown attempt, but he like failed on a takedown attempt, and rather than like pursue it, he just popped up and laid a right hand right on Poppy's chin and dropped him, and then pounced for the finish. So let me just check real quick what his record is. Just curious. Anyway, he doesn't look super comfortable on the feet. His wrestling doesn't look that technical. He's just kind of strong and pursues the takedown. So that's more how he gets his takedowns, more than through technique. So I watched film on him first, and then went back to look at Smith, and I was like, okay, Smith should take this one pretty easily. He's been in the UFC for a little while. I know that he's like a 500-ish fighter in the UFC, but he's still like got UFC caliber wins. So he should make short work of Gelati, who didn't look that impressive. But then I watched Smith, and I was equally unimpressed with Smith. He's just super awkward on the feet. I think he was a junior, junior college national wrestling All-American or something like that. So not a super high, high wrestling pedigree, but that's like his major skill set. It's his best skill set is his wrestling and his grappling. If you can he's kind of a grinder. If he can get you to the ground, he's capable of working submissions. That's where a lot of his wins have come, at least on like the regional circuit. I don't think that he's gotten a finish in the UFC yet, but he also fought in Strikeforce some. But anytime he's fought like a higher caliber UFC fighter, he's gotten mowed down easily. And then the lower caliber guys, he's been able to kind of grind his way to a decision. So I see this being one of the latter here. I don't think Gelati is that great. So I think that Smith's superior wrestling technique, and Smith is not that great of a striker himself either. Gelati's probably more powerful, but and Smith has got this super awkward like crouch, or like where he has his head like kind of like poked forward, and he gets hit like all the time. It's very, very awkward, but he throws decent volume and has good leg kicks. But I think that hopefully, for Smith's sake, he kind of initiates a clinch and tries to work takedowns and grind his way to a decision. That's how I see this one going. So my pick is Smith by decision. Yeah.
All right, let's look at Las Vegas. Trevor Smith is +100 as an underdog, and Gelati, Gigliotti, however you say it, is minus 130. Over-under is set at 1.5 rounds, and it's a coin flip to go over or under.
Yeah, so with those finish odds, this is one that you want to target probably in GPPs. But I like, if I'm going to target one of these guys in GPPs, it's probably going to be Gelati, who is cheaper, obviously, despite being, this is another one of those weird pricing things where the favorite is the lower price guy. Let's see what Gelati's finish prop is at, or what both these guys' finish props are at. Okay, so Gelati wins on inside distance prop is plus 104, and Smith's is plus 179. So again, Gelati's the one who's more likely to get the finish, but Trevor Smith's finish prop is not terrible either. So this is definitely a GPP play. For me, I don't think I'm going to have a ton of exposure. Like I said, I would have more exposure to Gelati given his super cheap price tag, the fact that he's the favorite, and the fact that I think he's got more first round finish upside than Smith. Smith's last couple of losses, he's gotten knocked out in the first round because he's just so hittable. That weird stance does him no favors in that regard. He also has his left hand dropped low like he's Floyd Mayweather or something, which he certainly is not. So I'll probably be more on Smith in GPPs here, but I wouldn't touch this fight in cash, I should say.
All right, I love it. Let's move on to our next fight of the evening. Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Zach Cummings. I'll dive into this one. I lost my spot here. So Ponzinibbio, he's a Muay Thai striker. Watching him fight, if you know what you're looking for, he's very clean and very sharp. He throws a lot of high-pressure strikes. He likes to stand and trade, but he's very crisp and very technically sound. Being a Muay Thai striker, he likes to mix up his strikes and kicks, and he does it at an elite level. He's got huge power in his right hand. And his last fight that I saw, Joe Rogan was going off about how he limits his telegraphing. He has no windup in his shots. He likes to have space and time to set things up. He succeeds when he gets comfortable at range and he can settle in and maintain the pressure that he puts up against other fighters. He likes to switch stances quite a bit. He changes angles. He uses combos. He forces opponents to counterpunch, and that sometimes makes him uncomfortable. They're not used to being in that department. And like I said, I'll touch on this again. You don't know where his strikes are coming from. They come from all different angles, but he doesn't wind up. He doesn't telegraph his strikes, and that makes it very difficult to defend it. His wrestling, he's shown good takedown defense. He fought Sean Strickland. He beat Sean Strickland, actually. He's a personal favorite of mine. Strickland tried to take him down, but he showed really good takedown defense. But other than that, I haven't really seen much of his wrestling ability and ground game. Moving on to Cummings. He's a southpaw striker. He is ginormous for the welterweight division. He walks into the octagon probably around 190 pounds after rehydrating. On his feet, he's got unique is the best way to describe his stand-up. I wouldn't say it's wild, but it's not as technically sound and crisp as you would think, but he makes it work. It's not like he's at a disadvantage on the feet, a drastic disadvantage, but he makes it work, and it's just a unique way to strike. In the wrestling department, he's dominant on the mat. He grinds on top control, grinds out his opponent and wears him down. He fought Gunnar Nelson, who is a star in the making, and he held his own for 2 rounds. He really controlled him until late in the fight. Gunnar came back and finished it off. But he tends to use his clinch and grappling skills to avoid the striking game, especially against Gunnar. He got in Gunnar's face because he likes to set things up from a distance, and he neutralized that by getting close. And if he's going to win this fight, I see him doing that against Ponzinibbio. The pick in this fight for me, I'm going to go with Ponzinibbio. I think his Muay Thai and his striking is at an excellent level, and I think he picks apart Cummings from the outside. Cummings is going to try to take him down, but I'm confident in Ponzinibbio's takedown defense, where he can win this fight standing up on the feet. I don't see a finish coming in this fight. I have no idea what Vegas odds thinks about this, so I could be totally way off. But I'm going to go with Ponzinibbio via decision. Yeah, I just think, like I said, I think he maintains distance and relies on his Muay Thai striking to win this fight.
Okay. Yeah, before we look at the odds, I think that Cummings has been underrated a lot in his UFC career, so I'm just curious. I didn't do the research for this fight, obviously. But do you see what would be the avenue for Cummings to get a win if there was one?
Taking him to the ground, grinding it out.
Okay. Do you think that he could?
I don't know what kind of finish. I don't know what kind of finish or what kind of finishes he has in his career if he's a submission guy. Knocked out Dominic Steele. Grind out a submission or grind out a decision, honestly.
Okay.
I think that's the only way.
Gotcha.
Holy shit. I kind of cheated. I just looked at DraftKings. All right. Let's look at Vegas odds. Zach Cummings is -105, and Ponzinibbio is -125, so that's pretty much a coin flip. The over-under is at 2.5 rounds. The over is set as the favorite at -145. DraftKings, Zach Cummings comes in at 10,000, and Ponzinibbio comes in at 9,400. That's another price discrepancy. Ponzinibbio's my guy here. I think with the value and Vegas slightly favors him, I think I'm going with him.
Okay. More of a cash play or GBP?
Probably cash. I don't know if he finishes.
Okay.
I don't know. That's a tough call.
I mean, he's definitely got finishing.
Oh, he's got finishing potential in his hands.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know. Like you said, with the value that you're getting on Ponzinibbio, I think that makes him a viable cash option. But I think both these guys could be GPP plays because Cummings has gotten finish potential with his submissions. So if he can drag the fight to the floor, I think that he could, especially like in the later rounds with how Ponzinibbio tends to gas. If Cummings can survive to round 3 and get a takedown, I would not be at all shocked if he could lock something up. He's, I don't know, like I said, sneaky and underrated in that way, I think. But I think obviously, given the odds, given your analysis, having watched more film on both these guys, that Ponzinibbio makes the better play in probably both cash and GBPs.
Yeah, I would, like you said, I agree with your analysis on Cummings. The longer the fight goes, it probably favors him. Yeah, you couldn't go wrong with either, but I'm gonna lean Ponzinibbio on this one for his price tag and where Vegas has him. I think it's a smart play.
Cool.
All right, next fight: Tails Ladies versus Chris Camozzi.
All right.
Palace, whatever you want to call him.
Middleweight fight right here. Extravaganza. This is our boy Chris Camozzi, who we picked up in UFC Pittsburgh, and then he won, and then he was still cool. So that's always nice. Yeah. So I'm actually going to go out on a limb here and pick Camozzi, which might seem pretty weird because Ladies has been the guy who's been in like the top 10, or has been like flirting with that at least. And Camozzi has not been. He's kind of like the gatekeeper, journeyman type of dude, but he's on a nice little run here. Won his fight with who was it that he fought in Pittsburgh? Joe Riggs. Joe Riggs, and then he
broke his arm.
Yeah, then we won another fight since then. I'm trying to remember who that was against. All right. Professionalism.
Miranda.
Beat Miranda, yeah. So that was a really good win for him. Miranda had been on like a 3 or 4 fight finish streak, and Camozzi, that Miranda is a kickboxer. That's like his main deal, and Camozzi pretty much outboxed him or out-kickboxed him. So that's kind of Camozzi's thing here is that he's very, very durable. He's super hard to put away, and he throws a lot of volume. He doesn't have a ton of power in his strikes. That's maybe his like biggest weakness. He's not super powerful. I mean, he did wreck Joe Riggs, and we heard kind of leading up to the fight that he'd been working a new like strength and conditioning program that was like really helping him out a lot. So maybe he's developing power. But like we talked about when we were going to that fight in Pittsburgh when we did our first podcast, Riggs is kind of held together with like duct tape and staples and stuff at this point. So him getting injured is not at all surprising. But it wasn't really in a fluky way. Camosi just bashed him with knees again and again and again, and as Riggs blocked them, he broke his arm. So the deal with Leites is that his reputation is that of a world-class grappler. He came to the UFC his first time as a jiu-jitsu ace, won most of his fights by submission, and then when he couldn't submit you, he couldn't really do a whole lot else. He fights out of Nova União, despite they're known for their lighter weight guys, featherweights, bantamweights, stuff like that, and he's a middleweight. But that's where he trains, and he's developed some dangerous striking. I don't know that I would say that it's super polished or crisp or technical by any means, but he's powerful. He rocked Michael Bisping on several occasions in their fight before losing a decision. So he's got big power in his hands, and he's got world-class jiu-jitsu, but he doesn't have awesome wrestling. Camosi has been submitted a few times, but he's been submitted in the UFC by like Jacare Souza. Earlier in his career, he got submitted by Kyle Noak, who's also a very good grappler. But recently, it's been Jacare, and Jacare's maybe the best fighter in the division, one of the top 3 at least, probably. And Jacare does have very, very good wrestling to go along with his very good grappling. So Camosi has solid takedown defense here, and so that's sort of how I see this one playing out. Is he Camosi stuffs Leites' takedowns and out volumes him on the feet. Camosi's never been finished by strikes. Never say never. We've seen that happen before. We say, oh, this dude's never been finished by strikes, and then he gets knocked out. That will happen eventually if you fight long enough. But given how durable Camosi is, given his superior volume, given his solid takedown defense, I choose him to get the decision here over Leites.
I love it. How can I get on that train? Chris Camosi's a dude. I think we're going to ride him until he screws us over. No, but I agree. He's Mr. Durable. He's always in the fight. He's got to have confidence coming right now. He's on a 3 straight win streak. And Leites is on a 2-fight losing streak. Granted, he's fought Bisping and Mousasi. But I like where your head's at. Let's take a look at Las Vegas and see if they agree. Chris Camosi is plus 140 underdog, and Thales Leites is minus 170. Favored to go over 2.5 rounds at minus 210. DraftKings, Leites comes in at 10,007. Camosi 8,700. That's some price savings right there for us, folks.
Yeah, I mean, not even based on my pick, which is based on the odds. He's not a huge underdog by any means, and coming in at under 9,000. I think out of the guys who are under 9,000, he's definitely the one who could get you the one most likely to get you the win. I mean, down there you've got Daniel Taylor 8.5, Alex Caceres at 8.9, Hani Jason at 9. So out of all those guys, Camosi is the only one that I'm actually going to favor to win, and he's below 9,000. So I think obviously he makes a very good cash play, and even like a GBP play, since he's so cheap. He doesn't have the same finish potential as other guys down there. Like Caceres has got pretty good finishing potential, I think, and Dominique Steele. But so maybe don't play Camosi super heavily in GBPs because he's not the same finish threat that a lot of those other guys are. But getting a winner below 9,000, you gotta like that, regardless of the format. So more of a cash play for me. Ladies, I don't think I'm going to have a lot of exposure to, maybe a little bit in GBPs because he could, if he can get to the fight to the floor for extended periods of time, he could get the submission. But I don't think it's super likely here. So I probably won't have a lot of him, especially with how expensive he is.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was just going to say 10,007 against I want to finish for 10,700, and against a guy like Chris Camosi, we're lucky because we know a lot about him. We kind of investigated. I don't like that price tag, so I'm probably going to fade Leites as well. Good analysis. I love it. Let's move on to the next fight. Dennis the Menace Bermudez versus Honey Jason. I'm going to take this one. I think it's pretty cut and dry here. You guys know what you're going to get with Bermudez. He's super active on the feet. He averages 4 significant strikes per minute on the feet, so he's really, really active. His wrestling is his bread and butter. He averages 4 takedowns per fight. Top control, the guy is suffocating. He just wears on guys. He had top control on Kawajiri, and Kawajiri was gassed by the second round. They just couldn't shake him off. He's like glue. You guys know what you're going to get with Dennis Bermudez, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse. Honey Jason, his striking, he's an explosive striker. He does continue to get better, and he evolves. He throws this signature flying knee. I'm willing to bet Josh within the first minute and a half he throws a flying knee in the fight. Sometimes he's super aggressive. Sometimes he's super calm. He's a pretty inconsistent fighter when he comes out there. His wrestling, he's easily taken down. When he fought Damon Jackson, Jackson took him down pretty much at will, and he stood straight up and down, and Jackson, a simple level change, and he was taken down. Against the elite level wrestler that Bermudez is, he doesn't stand a chance. In an interview that I actually read, he stated in the past, he goes, I do not want to be on my back. I don't like to be on my back. So if Bermudez gets in there, it's over. Easy decision here for me. I'm all over Bermudez in this fight. I think he pushes the pace. I think he gets to Jason. He's going to use that superior wrestling. He's going to keep the fight on the ground, mix it in with constant strikes, pressure. Now, the only thing that I'm torn on is, does he finish? I don't really know what his finishing history is. I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, he's got a few finishes in there. I don't know what to say. Let's see if Jason's been finished a lot. He's only been finished once in the past couple of years. Either way, I'm taking Bermudez in this fight to win pretty easily. What's Vegas have to say about it?
Got you. So Bermudez is a minus 235 favorite, and Jason is a plus 215 underdog. The fight is the over-under is 1.5 rounds, and it's favored to go over at minus 207. So perhaps a late finish is possible here. DraftKings has this one at Bermudez is 10,400 and Jason is 9,000.
All right, I'm not touching Jason anywhere. I'll tell you that. Bermudez, cash game GPP. I like him in both. 10-4. I think he storms. I think he's a guaranteed win here for your cash game. And Vegas thinks he might even finish it. I'm not too sold on a finish. I don't know. I'm not sure on whether or not he finishes. I don't really have a passionate opinion on that one. Wouldn't be shocked either way, but yeah, I like Bermudez in each format.
Okay, so definitely more exposure in cash, a little bit of exposure in tournaments.
Absolutely.
Yeah, something that I think that I might play Jason a little bit in tournaments, just a little bit, because Bermudez does have a bad habit of eating flush shots. Like
he is sloppy defensively. I will give you that. I should have mentioned that. He is sloppy defensively, but you're right. Jason, he's aggressive on his feet, and he could catch him. You never know, but I think Bermudez is the superior fighter.
I think this is Bermudez's fight to lose. He'd really have to walk himself into something. He's much more consistent. Like you said, Jason kind of fluctuates between like flurrying and not doing anything. And Bermudez will probably out-volume him, definitely out-wrestle him. So, yeah, I think your analysis is pretty spot on here.
All right. The main event of the evening. Alex Caceres versus Yair Rodriguez. The stage is yours, my friend.
All right, so this is I heard Caceres talk about this in an interview before, how he feels like the UFC kind of uses him to kind of like build up other fighters, that he gets matched up with people who, like when he fought Sergio Pettis at bantamweight, that they were trying to build Pettis up, and the way that they marketed the fight, it seemed like they wanted him to win, and they probably did because he's a Pettis, and at the time, like, the Pettis name meant a whole lot, but he threw a monkey wrench in those plans. It seems like the same kind of thing is happening here. Rodriguez just knocked out Andre Fili with like a flying switch kick. Be played on highlight reels for decades, probably. But he's getting sort of a lateral move in Caceres. Caceres did just put a hellacious beating on which Miller was it?
Cole.
Cole, thank you. There's like Dan Jim. There's so many Millers, like I can't get the first name straight sometimes. Sorry. Yeah. Anyway, Caceres did just put a beating on Cole Miller, but I don't know. I don't know if it was like just a stylistic matchup that like really favored him, but I think he had lost his previous fight before that, while Yair Rodriguez is like 3-0 in the UFC or something like that. So it doesn't really make much sense from a matchmaking standpoint in terms of their records. It makes sense when you think about the fact that they're trying to push Rodriguez as like this, like Mexican dude who could really champion them in that market. And the fact that it should be an exciting fight as well. I think that's kind of where it makes sense here. But I'm guessing that Rodriguez is probably a pretty heavy favorite here because because of his last fight, because of his winning streak, and Caceres for his kind of ability to he's a good striker, good grappler as well. He's got defensive liabilities and kind of mental lapses, I think, that kind of get him in trouble sometimes. He looked, like I said, really, really good in his last fight. Really picked his shots, didn't get over aggressive, didn't go nuts. But in the third round, he almost got submitted by Cole Miller in a fight that he was handily winning. So that just kind of typifies the Caceres, fight right there. So the deal with Rodriguez is that he's really, really hard to like corral. He's just super weird, awkward, unpredictable movement, and he throws like the same types of strikes. He really likes kicks from long range and super weird things that people don't see coming, which makes him like really good, makes him effective. He doesn't land a ton of volume necessarily, but he can usually land something pretty damaging because a lot of the times they just don't see it coming. He's also a pretty solid wrestler and a good grappler as well, so he'll probably have advantages in those departments, though Caceres is no slouch in the grappling department, but he tends to take risks and lose position at times when he doesn't need to. So that doesn't an extended grappling match probably wouldn't bode well for Caceres. Caceres, I think, has the better boxing. He really he used kicks a lot against Miller, but he was also putting big time beating on him with his hands. And so I think if they were boxing in the pocket, I think Caceres would definitely have the advantage. But Caceres also likes those kind of long range attacks. It'll be really interesting to see how this goes. I think most opponents try to corner Rodriguez and get a bead on him, and they have a really hard time doing that. And I don't know if Caceres will really play that game. It'll be interesting to see, because I think if he chases after Rodriguez, he's going to get caught and probably knocked out. But if he kind of sits back and lets Rodriguez try to come to him a little bit, I'm worried that it might end up turning into kind of a stalemate, like a staring match kind of thing, where they both want to counter and neither one is engaging. It's kind of hard for me to see Caceres having the patience to do that for extended periods of time. But I think that if he can kind of make Rodriguez come to him, he could have a lot of success and potentially get the win that way. But ultimately, I think that Rodriguez's superior defense, his unpredictability is going to make Caceres have a hard time really landing consistently on him, and Rodriguez's superior tighter ground game, I think, is going to help carry him. So I like Rodriguez here by third round submission.
All right, Vegas agrees with you. Rodriguez is minus 300 and Caceres is plus 220. The over-under is set at 2.5 rounds, and it's a coin flip. It's minus 115 to go over, minus 115 to go under. Looking at DraftKings, Rodriguez comes in at 10,500 and Caceres is 8,900.
Yeah, so you're definitely looking at a 5-round fight where it's the over-under is at 2.5 rounds. It's coin flip. You're looking at a finish here, almost certainly. Caceres has said that he has wanted a 5-round fight for a long time, but we'll see if it even makes it into the championship rounds or not. Kind of hope it does, because I think it will be exciting, but probably looking at a finish here. And Rodriguez, given that he's a pretty heavy favorite, and again, he's not super heavily priced. I mean, you got guys like Court McGee and Ishihara who are in the mid 1100s, and Rodriguez, who's a bigger favorite than both of those guys, I'm pretty sure, is in the mid 10,000. So you gotta like Rodriguez here. I like him in both cash and tournaments, despite the the finish odds on this. I think that Rodriguez's tighter defense, his I'm trying to think of the right word, his elusiveness, I think will help him last at least longer into the fight. So I like him in cash, and also obviously in a fight that's likely to go to finish, you like him in GBPs as well. I don't hate Caceres in GBPs either. I think he could make a decent GBP play at under 9,000. He is definitely capable of getting the finish. I think that one of these days Rodriguez is going to run into a guy who can figure him out, or like just doesn't like play around with his shit. You know what I mean? And it's going to happen eventually, I think. And it could be Caceres, or it could end up being somebody else down the road. Like, Max Holloway is probably would make mincemeat out of Rodriguez at this point. I don't know if they'll fight for probably a few years, but I see it happening eventually. It happens to everybody eventually. They eventually lose. They eventually get figured out. Somebody will find a weakness. So it could be Caceres, but I like Rodriguez here in both formats, and Caceres as a moderate GPP play.
All right, folks. You heard the man. That about wraps it up for UFC Fight Night 92. Let's move on to our bonus picks. I'll go over this really quick. Josh and I pick a lock of the night who is guaranteed to win. If you get it right, you get nothing. If you get it wrong, you lose 1 point. Fight of the night, if you get it right, you get 1 point. And the Stonewall Stunner of the evening, if you get it right, you get +3. So the current score, I'm winning 10-5. And let's start with our fight of the night. Josh, go ahead.
Well, real quick, I just want to kind of recap our picks from our last two cards. We didn't ever really, discuss these last ones on our last episode. I think we were like running out of time or whatever, so didn't talk about it at all. But from International Fight Weekend, the two podcasts before the UFC on Fox 20 with Holm and Shevchenko, our two cards before that we didn't make bonus picks for Holm versus Shevchenko. We were just kind of throwing it together at the last minute. So our last two times we did bonus picks were UFC Fight Night 90, which was the Eddie Alvarez dethroning Rafael dos Anjos. My pick for Fight of the Night was Mike Pyle versus Alberto Mina, and yours was Alvarez versus dos Anjos. And we both missed on that. I think we're still 0 for infinity on Fight of the Night picks. The actual was Alan Jouban versus Bilal Muhammad, which was awesome. My lock of the night was dos Anjos, and that did not work out so well, obviously, so I lost a point there. We were 7-7 going into International Fight Week, by the way, our score. And Diener, your lock was Jouban, and you got that one. Your stunner was Mitch Clark would decision Joe Duffy. So do you remember how that one worked out?
Not good.
Yeah, Duffy smoked him in like 30 seconds.
Smashed him.
Yeah, ouch. And my stunner was that dos Anjos would finish Alvarez in the first. And again, that did not work out so well for me. So after UFC Fight Night 90, you were up 7-6 after I lost my lock. Then UFC 200, my Fight of the Night pick was Edgar versus Aldo, and yours was Dillashaw versus Sunsao. And they didn't even do a Fight of the Night. There was no Fight of the Night for UFC 200 because the card was garbage for the most part. My lock was Zingano, and that lost because I'm really smart.
The worst around.
She lost to Juliana Pena, and yours was Dillashaw, and he decisioned to Sunsao. My stunner was that your stunner was that Lesnar Hunt would go the distance, and that was correct somehow. And mine was that Enrique Marin would finish Sage Northcutt, which almost happened but didn't quite happen. So with me losing my lock and you hitting on the stunner, you're up now 10-5. So I'm getting crushed here like a grape. It's pretty ugly. But so my pick for this Fight of the Night, if you're going to go Ishihara Gutierrez, I was going to go.
Thanks for taking my thunder, bro. Didn't even have to announce it. That's fine.
Oh, I'm sorry, dude. Many apologies. 1,000 apologies. I'm sorry. I thought that you were going to go with – I'm going to go with the main event. I think that's going to be just crazy fireworks. I was going to go Timur Novelli because it's a Muay Thai fight. Should be a stand-up war for the most part. But I think the drama will be more in the Caceres Rodriguez fight. So that's going to be my Fight of the Night.
All right. This is a fun one that we do, guys. It's called the bathroom break fight of the night. As always, you're going to have more fun in the bathroom than you would watching this 15-minute snooze fest. I'm going to go first. I'm going to go Pesta Tybura, the heavyweight fight. Talked about it earlier. I won't get into it. I think it's a boring fight, goes to the decision, and hopefully all you people out there smash this fight and are upset with it, and I make a bunch of money.
Perfect. Yeah.
Well, our non-listeners, I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course. My bathroom break fight of the night is going to be Trevor Smith versus Joe Gelati. I think that's probably going to be a grinding affair. If Gelati can't knock Smith out in the first round, I think Smith is just going to there's going to be grinding in the clinch and on the ground. I think it's going to be ugly. So that's my bathroom break pick.
All right, our lock of the evening. I'll jump in. Easy one here. Bermudez, I think he's a guaranteed win.
Okay. Yeah. He was your lock the last time out too, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So my lock this time is going to be Swanson. I like Cub Swanson to beat Tatsuya Kawajiri. Kawajiri is just not getting kind of feel bad for him. He just keeps getting these. He's got kind of a big name, I guess. So he keeps getting these tough matchups, and he's probably going to keep losing them. Knock on wood. So I like Swanson. He's my lock.
Okay, and finally, the Stonewall Stunner of the evening. You can go first.
All right, so this is our super, I don't know, unlikely thing to happen. I was looking at the card, and I didn't see any big underdogs that I really liked. I picked Rodriguez, so I think it would be kind of lame for me to go back and say, oh, Caceres gets the finish, and that's the Stonewall Stunner. Like I said in the analysis, definitely could happen. But there weren't a lot of dogs here that I felt like I really wanted to go in on. So I was going to say Cub Swanson finishes Kawajiri in the first round, but you don't seem impressed by that.
No, I don't. I am not impressed by your performance. That's so lame. Why don't you? I'm going to say Chris Camozzi finishes, ladies.
All right, that's fair. I like that one. Are you gonna let me roll with Swanson? He's got to finish the first round. I looked at the odds.
I'm gonna let you ride. I'm gonna let you ride with it and watch you crash and burn, and I'm just gonna take a commanding lead. What are we racing to, by the way? We need to have a little wager on this.
Oh yeah.
I say first to 21.
Okay, first 21.
I mean, you can decide on that because I do have a 5-point lead.
No, that's fine. That gives me enough time to catch up.
Okay.
So what are we playing for? We got stakes here, or we'll think about that.
We'll talk about it off the air.
All right, great. Can't wait for that. Anything else? Yeah. So I was looking at the odds. Swanson is he's plus 350 to finish in the first round, so it's not exactly likely here. Pick round one. So I guess I'll go ahead with our plug here. If you like our content, please rate, subscribe, thumbs up, whatever. Do all those kinds of good things on iTunes or on YouTube or
follow.
You can follow us on Twitter. You can follow me at Stonewall MMA. You can follow Drew at Houdini 16. Is that right?
WHODEANY 16.
And the podcast at Daily Fantasy KO. You can also find my blog at rotogrinders.com. If you do an opponent search, it's probably the easiest way to find it. Opponent search. My handle on there is JDS86.
You should put the link in the YouTube.
Yeah, I probably should do that. I will do that.
Okay.
Is that it?
Yeah, I think that's all she wrote, guys. As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back, next? 202? Big card coming up?
Yes, 202.
Yeah. Can't wait for that one. We're going to try to get it out Wednesday or Thursday as normal. Ran into some things this week, so we had to do it on Friday. Hopefully you guys get to watch this before tomorrow. As always, thanks for listening. We hope our insight proves beneficial to you guys. You make a whole bunch of money tomorrow. Good luck in your lineups. And for Stonewall Stillman, I'm Houdini. We'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks. Peace.
Peace.